Brands on Brands.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This week we're talking about the 4 stages of personal branding. This will be part 1 of 4. Check it out.
In a world where content is king and your reputation is your brand, how do you build a brand that matters? Welcome to Brands on Brands, a home for those that think different and push their boundaries. This is where branding that matters lives. Now, here is your host, Brandon Birkmeyer.
Hey, what's up? Welcome to Brands on Brands. I'm Brandon Birkmeyer, your personal branding coach, and I believe that building a brand that matters is the only way for a business or a person to thrive tomorrow. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. This week, we are diving into the stages of personal branding, how to get from 0 to 100 in 4 simple steps that will take time. But if this is something that is interesting to you, check out today's content. But also, I am enrolling right now, and it will max out at 10 students. I am enrolling students in my one-on-one coaching for 6 months, where I will personally be taking them through these 4 stages to work with you to develop a personal brand for you, for your business that you can monetize today. So hopefully, if that's interesting, guys, check that out. Go to brandsonbrands.com/coach. Set up a call with me. The call is free, and we can see if we're a good fit for each other. Otherwise, let's jump into the show.
Brands on Brands.
All right. What's up, everybody? Today, we are talking about the personal branding phases, the phases of personal branding or stages of personal branding. The first stage, stage 1, which we'll dive into today, is identity. Stage 2 is introductions. Stage 3 is offers, and stage 4 is voice. And with each of these, we'll be talking about how you build your message, the things you say at each of these stages in your in-person and offline interactions. And also, how do you get attention for you, your personal brand, and your business? At each stage, it is different. And I'm excited about these episodes because, to be honest, one of the first questions I get all the time is, where do I start? Marketing is intimidating. It's a fair question. There is so many choices. And if you choose the wrong step and you do them out of order, it's easy to waste months of time on something that's not going to drive business today. So I hope this is super useful for everyone out there. And stage 1 is identity. This is the first and most important step, because if you do not know who you are, who you serve, why you serve them, and what the value of that is, then you don't have anything to sell, and people are not going to know if they should work with you or not. So figuring out your identity is phase 1. So I would start with just asking yourself, what is my goal? What is my mission? Understanding what you want to accomplish long-term, not just short-term. I want some customers. I want to make money. Understanding what your long-term goals are versus short-term is important. And that long-term goal, long-term mission should align with your core values. It should align with what makes you want to help people, what makes you for them. And it is what differentiates you a lot of the time as well. Your personal reason for being passionate about a project and passionate about helping people is a differentiator that sets you apart. So dive into that and try to understand and write out, like, this is my mission. This is what I see, my grandiose vision for the future. If everything was perfect, this is what would happen, right? Second, dive into your vision of what that would look like if you achieved your mission, and paint those pictures of, these are the kinds of people I want to help. This is what I want to help them accomplish. And this is how I believe we can get there. And within that, you can start to realize and write out what is the third piece of your identity, which is your value proposition, right? Value proposition, simply put, is what you offer, why it is important and necessary, and how you position it as different than the other things out there in the market, right? So understanding, I help people accomplish this, and what the value of that result is number one. So if you are a fitness coach, understanding that your offer is to help them lose 20 pounds is number one, but understanding what the value of that is, losing 20 pounds and keeping it off, and the value of that being that you will live a healthier lifestyle that you can maintain for the rest of your life so you never gain them back. Like as you tap into those special things, and then the reason that works is because of my special process that I've created, and I know it works because XYZ, you start to get into why they would choose you in the first place. They want something effective. They want something that is for them, that works in the way that they would naturally want to work. So identifying all that at the beginning is part of your identity, is part of the process, the first phase that you need to map out, so that when you might be talking to your friends or the people you are meeting on a daily basis, you can at least explain what you do, why you do it, and maybe get some of your first customers simply based on your conversations, right? Now, we'll talk about how to introduce yourself on the next show and how to take all that information and put it into an introduction. But starting with you mapping it out yourself is number one. So map out your mission, map out their vision for your business, and then what the value is of the thing that you want to help people with. Start there as your simple identity, right? Just in as simple of words as possible. Like, don't try to overinflate the words you use, like just in layman's terms, so someone would understand. I help people lose weight. Okay, cool. I get that, right? You have to keep it very basic. People aren't scientific. So get that part identified very quickly. That's the message phase, right? The attention side of this, when you figure those things out, well, where does that live that's going to help you get attention? Well, there are 4 phases for attention as well. And the 4 phases that I will go through with you over the next 3 or 4 podcasts is, I map them out as this, right? The first phase is 1 to 0, which is you creating things that you're the one, and you are creating them. At the beginning, it will reach 0 people. Like you create a website and no one is there to look at it yet, right? You are creating assets, but no one is looking at it yet. So that's 1 to 0 messaging. There's 1-to-1 messaging, which is phase 2, which we'll talk about on the next podcast. 1-to-1 messaging is you having direct communication with someone and how that works, whether it's in a networking setting or something else, right? Direct communication. The next is 1-to-few, which would be phase 3, and that's you connecting with a small group of people. And then 1-to-many is the last phase, and that is how do you scale attention, right? So the one we're talking about today is 1-to-0, and this connects with the identity information, right? Because first you need to figure out who you are and how you tell people who you are and why you're doing this in the first place. And then when you're creating your 1-to-0 attention plan, you need to figure out where you're going to put those messages that you just created. So the first is your website. Every time you meet someone in person, especially when you're starting out, you are the person who's out there getting attention for your business, right? The social media and everything else, none of it works unless you are taking action. And when someone finally is suddenly curious about the thing you told them about, they need to go somewhere to learn more. And your website is going to be step 1. Okay. So the website doesn't need to be crazy blown out to begin with. It just at least has to explain to people what you do. And if we work together, I'll help you figure out what to build and how to build it and what to say on the different pages and what to put in the different sections. But when you're starting out, the point is to keep it simple so that it gets done, because you could easily spend 6 months and $5,000 to $10,000 building a website that 0 people are visiting, right? So your goal is to get it up quickly, not spend that kind of money, but build it in a way that is effective enough that people understand what your identity is, and potentially you can collect their information, right? And that's with the simple request, which is, enter your email here. And you can give them a freebie for that, or you can, entice them in some other way. But your website is where you explain simply what you are, how you help people. And the people you meet in person go to that and they Google you and they find this website and say, oh, okay, this is who that person is. It's a validation point when you're just getting started. So that's the first phase, website. And then the other media channel within the 1-to-0 attention category is your email list. Okay. So these are the 2 things you focus on when you're building attention, when you are day 1 entrepreneur looking to build your brand and your reputation, is you get a quick website up and you create the channel you need to develop an email list. So what does that mean? It means every time you meet someone or every time you offer to help someone, there should be an opportunity for them to give you an email for you to send them that help, right? So what most people do is they develop a very simple digital download of some sort that's like, here are the 3 tips that we talked about. Here you go. Can you send me your email? Or even if you're talking to one person, you can ask for their email. Hey, I'm happy to help. Like, let me send you my tips. Just give me your email. I'll write it down. I'll email this to you. When you're gathering this, what I'd like you to do is to collect those emails on the list, right? Now you can start with like an Excel sheet if that's what you want to do. What I would recommend is that you invest in a simple email marketing system. There is free versions when you're getting started of the different ones. The one that I recommend for email would be ConvertKit. And you can go to brandsonbrands.com/ConvertKit to check that out. And there's a link to that. There's an affiliate fee attached with that from me, but it gets you a discount to the software. But point is, that's what I use. That's what most of the pros use to develop their email list. And getting it started early is great because then you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to transition it later. But whatever you need to do, having some way to collect people's information and then later communicate with them and nurture those conversations is huge when you're starting out. And you might have to do most of that manually when you're beginning with. Maybe it's your contact book in your Gmail that you are just managing and keeping up to date. But eventually you'll want to get that into an email list provider, a CRM as they call it, like ConvertKit. And that's all you need in this 1 to 0 phase. The website, if you guys do not have a website yet, try your best to get out there and get your domain bought so that you know what you're going to call yourself and see if the name of what you want to call yourself is available. If it's your name, that's great. Those are unique. If it's a clever name that really relates to your industry, your business, that's great too. You can choose one of those. Again, I'm happy to help with these things if you're in my coaching program to help figure out the naming of these things. And even with the website development, all these things we can be working on so you're not doing this in the dark without any input, right? We can do this hand in hand together to make sure you're taking all these steps correctly. So, but the website is super important when you're getting started, and so is the email list, but only to a certain extent, right? If you're wasting hours and days on these things, now you've missed the point, you've gone too far. That's almost a huge detriment. It's like the next biggest problem, which people is wasting their time developing social media when they haven't built a business or a network yet. So again, these are things that happen later. I know there's a lot of choices out there. Start with these. Start in phase 1, understanding your identity, your mission, your vision, your value proposition, and then setting up a simple website and email list, right? Those, what I talk about all the time in phase 1, that's going to set you up so that when you take the next step, which we'll talk about in the next episode, which is talking to people one-on-one, they now have this to refer to after your conversations to back you up. So that's why it's hugely important. And I hope that's helpful for you guys today. That's where I would spend my time when I'm getting started in terms of the development of my personal brand. And we have a few more episodes just like this coming out. So I hope you guys check them out. And again, if you want to work together, just go to brandsonbrands.com/coach. We do have limited spots. It's maxed out at 10 people. But if you are available, check it out, reach out, and we'll see if we're a fit. All right. I appreciate you guys, and I will look forward to catching you next week.
You've just taken your marketing knowledge to another level with this episode of Brands on Brands. But we have plenty more ways to help you build a brand that matters. Head over to brandsonbrands.com for resources, as well as access to our blogs, videos, and exclusive coaching sessions with your host. Be sure to visit brandsonbrands.com.